Last spring, I did my review on the Rodecaster Pro, which is one of my favorite new production tools that has come out in many, many years. It's such a really just versatile, incredible device to use. And fortunately, every firmware update that comes out for it just makes it better and better. At this point, it pretty much does everything that I wished it would do when it was first released. And the reason I'm making this video is because at the end of March, Rode released the beta firmware 2.1.0, which I've installed on my Rodecaster, and I wanted to walk through with you right now because it gives some pretty incredible features and just takes it from 10 all the way up to 11 in terms of functionality. There are a handful of things that the Rodecaster gets criticized for, and I think that this firmware update addresses a lot of those issues. Also, since it's a beta, it's worth noting that even though you can download it and install it, it could be buggy, it could be a little bit glitchy, but Rode is also open to feedback for it. This is not a sponsored video in any way. I just really love this thing. It's an awesome device. But I did put all of Rode's contact info in the description to this video. So if you're using this firmware update and you notice something isn't working right, or you have an idea of how to make something better, this is the time to reach out to them and let them know, because in the non-beta version, in the release version, it could actually be addressed. And they seem to be very open to feedback from the community of people who use the Rodecaster, so I would definitely take advantage of that. The biggest thing to note with the new firmware update is that the Rode companion app on your computer is key. You can still use this as a standalone unit just like always, but to update the firmware and to take advantage of some of the new features, you really need that companion app. In the past, there have been two apps. There's been like the Rodecaster app, and then there's been a firmware updater. And now there's only one. There's just the companion app. It does everything. I put a link to that in the description as well, so you can go download that and install it. And then all you need to do to update the firmware is open up the companion app, plug in your Rodecaster and turn it on, and then it will tell you there's a firmware update available if you haven't yet done so. Mine is already updated, so I can't show you that, but it's really easy. You just click update. It takes 1 minute or 2 minutes, and then you're completely updated to the new firmware. So let's jump in and look at a few of the key features. So the first thing you'll notice with the new firmware update is that the home screen looks pretty much the same, but once you start going into the menus, that's where things change a little bit. So I just realized when I'm recording, the menu buttons disappear. So that's a little tricky. If I tap on the memory card icon, then I can go backwards and find all the menus. So just a little bit strange. I can't click on the podcast button right now because I'm recording, but I can do everything else. So I can click on channels. This is basically how things have been set up for the whole time the Rodecaster's been around. You can add in your effects. You can turn them on or off. You do notice there is now a reverb effect. So you can kind of hear, this is medium, this is large reverb, small reverb, medium. It's up to you if you want to incorporate reverb or not. And you can turn things on or off. But this is one of the biggest new features, because in the past, something like this, like the aural exciter, I don't really like it. If I turn that on, you can hear it makes my voice sound really thin and tinny and like ultra compressed. I like a little bit of that, but I don't like this much of it. So I haven't been using it. Now what you can do is go into, from the main menu, you just click on advanced, and then you go into extras. And now we can do enable effects edit mode. And if I turn that on, when we go back into our channels, now it looks a little bit different. And when I click on each effect, instead of just enabling or disabling it, I can actually play with every single setting. There's the de-esser. So if I want that to be really aggressive or I don't want it to be too aggressive, I can go back to the aural exciter. So instead of being, so here's how it sounds normally without it. Here's how it sounds by default, but I can also tune it to just fit exactly however I want it to sound for my voice specifically, and I can mix it all the way in, or I can turn it down and make it really subtle. I can do the same thing with the big bottom mixer, so the bass. Basically now, for every effect, you have the option of going through, XL reverb. Wait, let me see. XL reverb. Whoa, whoa. This is real reverby. Wow. Small room, medium room, large room, extra large room, and then, whoa, no damping. Okay, so oops, wait. I need to turn that off. So you can have a lot of fun with this, but most importantly, you can adjust this to match your preferences, your voice, and the microphones that you're using. So basically, what you can do now through every single one of these settings is you can adjust them exactly how you want them to be. And I think that's an incredible update. Another thing on that same menu, so if we go back to Advanced and we click on Extras, Enable Console Meters mode is really helpful. Now when we go to the home screen, all of the decibel meters are right there. So you're not just going by color, you can actually go by the correct meter reading. So you're not just relying on your headphones and your headphone levels. You're not just relying on the visuals. You can actually see the levels there. That's something that has been missing the whole time that I think is incredibly helpful. And I'm really happy that that's there. And then let's just take a look through the rest of the menus. So the main menu screen here, you can go to micro SD card. I'm going to talk about podcast transfer mode in a second. We can go to brightness and you can adjust the screen, kind of like always. We can play with our headphones. You can boost the headphone volumes. You can limit the maximum volume. We've got our Bluetooth settings if you want to connect your phone. And then in advanced, we've got some multi-track settings. You can even do post fader. You can do bypass audio processing, so you can get a clean multi-track signal, and you can do it also through USB now instead of just the micro SD card. In the audio menu, we have options for monitors. We have options for USB, and we have options for the channels themselves, including pre-fade listen and ducking. So you can customize things a lot more than you could before. And of course, in extras, we have these two things here. These would be the first thing I would turn on if I were you. We've also got some new options with the sound pads. So if I click on the music note, I can see all of my sounds. We can go over to the different banks of songs. So now what you can do is you can actually record directly to your sound pads. I'm going to tap on one of the blank ones, and I'm just going to hit record. I'm going to just say a cheesy joke. How do you put a baby astronaut to sleep? And stop. And now if I play that sound pad, how do you put a baby astronaut to sleep? But now I can take it a step further by actually overdubbing on top of that. How do you put a baby astronaut to sleep? You rock it. And now I save that. So now I've got the setup and the punchline to that joke. And I can even take it a step further and do more. You rock it. And now if I press the sound pad button, we should hear my setup, my punchline, and my audience reaction. How do you put a baby astronaut to sleep? You rock it. Amazing. So there is a lot of creative options that are opened up with this sound pad recording. You don't have to just do terrible jokes. You can do interviews, you can do music, you can do sound effects, you can do, what are they called? Little drops, that's what they're called, where you can take something and play it again out of context. Basically produce your own morning zoo radio show, I guess, if you wanted to. But again, just more flexibility, and you can do all that without even opening up your computer. But when it comes time to open up your computer, there are a few really cool options that exist now. So let's jump into those. So this is my overhead rig where the camera is facing down on the Rodecaster Pro, so you can see the screen when I change all of the settings. And I've been recording into the pod mic directly into the Rodecaster, so you can hear those changes that I make. But I'm going to switch over to the Video Mic Pro Plus right now. So this is now directly into my EOS R. The reason for that is because I actually need to stop the recording on the Rodecaster. So that way I can show you a few more of the features that I can't access while it's recording, and I can show you how to transfer to the computer. So now that it's not recording, you'll notice that it says beta right up there, and that is where I have my normal menu option to go up into all my settings and things. And if I click on podcasts, this is where you can see the different podcasts I've recorded. Right now there are only 2 files on this card, which are the ones that I've made for this video that I'm recording right now. If I click on the memory card option, now I have a toggle switch for podcast transfer mode, and that opens up some really cool flexibility. So let's connect this to the computer real quick. So now that I have the Rodecaster connected to my computer, if I click on the SD card option, this podcast transfer mode now has a toggle switch to it. And if I turn that on, It's going to ask me, would you like to switch to podcast transfer mode? And I'm going to say yes. And now when I go onto the Rodecaster app on the computer, I can click on podcast and see the files of what I have recorded so far today, what's on the memory card. And if I click on one of those, it gives me transfer options. So I can name it, I can even label it. I can choose the file type. This is something I've been wanting since the very beginning. I can choose WAV or MP3. So I can import it directly as an MP3. I can choose the bitrate, the sample rate, and I can even choose a loudness preset for either iTunes, Spotify, or the BBC, since they have specific requirements for how they like their podcast to sound. I put everything up on Anchor, so I don't really do that. And then when you have your settings all set and you click the import button, it'll give you a chance to name it and put it where you want it on your computer. You can still transfer your podcast through the micro SD card like usual. Just put it in your computer and then drag the files over. That's what I've been doing, and then I've had to open up Adobe Audition or another app to convert to an MP3 so that I can upload it to Anchor and distribute the podcast. Now I can do that all directly within the Rodecaster Companion app. I can import it as an MP3, I can select the bitrate, and that's it. So literally within minutes of finishing recording, I can have it uploaded and ready to go on Anchor, and that is just absolutely wonderful. Once you're finished with that, then on the Rodecaster, you can click Done, and it's going to take you out of podcast transfer mode and put it back into like usability recording mode. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, this is a beta firmware update. So this is the 2.1.0 beta. That means there could be bugs and glitches, but again, just reach out to Rode and let them know, because that's why they're releasing the public beta, is to get that feedback so that this thing can become an even better tool than we're used to it being. As I'm cleaning this up, I would really like to thank Decksaver in the UK. They make these really cool covers, and they sent me one for free, which I've been using for a few months now. And when you're not using the Rodecaster, it fits right on it and keeps all the dust and dirt from getting on the screen and getting in the little channel things. That's really awesome. So I'll put a link to Decksaver too in the description in case you're interested in protecting your Rodecaster. If you want to learn more about the Rodecaster, I've done quite a few videos about it, so I'll put a playlist right here that you can check out that has kind of all of my Rodecaster videos and my mic comparisons and all the cool stuff about this really fun, really awesome device. So good luck, have fun with that firmware update.